had this glorious, savoring moment, and where we would just love the artwork and peel open that record, whether it was the vinyl or the CD and the packaging. And everything is an instantaneous, snappy, chatty, Instagrammy moment. And they are ablaze in a way that we have no reference for.
Welcome to Jackie's Groove. Come journey with us through the rhythm of the music business with your host, Jackie Bertoni.
This is Jackie Bertoni, brought to you by the Intertalk Radio Network. Guys, hey, it's Monday, April the 17th, and I am beside myself with joy. Let me tell you why. Not only am I, of course, the musician in the industry for 30 years, as you well know, but as this new radio guy, the benefit of that, I've had the chance to interview people I believe that are icons worldwide, and also people that I've had musical crushes on. And 2 weeks ago, I had the honor of Miss Ann Wilson from the group called Heart. And today trumps that, in my opinion. I hate to say that, Ann, but I've had a crush on this girl musically and physically, and I apologize to my wife at all due respect. But this woman knocks me out. She's knocked me out since her infantile stage of becoming worldwide and world famous in 1989. My favorite album called Porcelain. We're going to talk about that. But today's show is going to be all encompassing of her new release, called The Language of Love. So with that said, guys, I want everybody to welcome with open arms and open ears to Jackie's Groove, the lovely and talented Miss Julia Fordham. Julia, welcome to Jackie's Groove, my love.
I'm so welcome. I think it's very possibly the best idea if you just move into my house and greet me and introduce me like that every day as I come staggering out of the bedroom trying to work out how many kids I'm driving to school that day. That would just be great.
We all have a price, my love. We all have a price. Let me just tell you something. You and I, before we get into the crux of things, you and I have a relationship here in which back about 12, 13 years ago, a great little club here in San Juan Capistrano, California called the Coach House. And a dear friend of mine had called me and said, hey, I'm opening up for Julia Fordham. I can't believe it. Her name is Angel Short. And so I said, yeah, I'd be more than happy to. So I joined Angel on stage. And then this woman by the name of Julia Fordham walked up to me after on a break before she came down, and she said, Jackie, I would love, if you can, if it's okay, to sit in with me on a song called Genius. Are you familiar with it? Of course. Now, after I picked myself off the floor, I had the option and the opportunity to play with that. Only thing I didn't have with me, I didn't have my gyro, so I couldn't do that Brazilian little ooh in the beginning of it. But we had fun, and I sat there like a young girl looking at Justin Bieber on stage, even though that wasn't around. So I thank you, my love, for opening your stage to me, and thank you very much for being a major soundtrack to a major part of my life with your music. And I'm not going to let you get away from during this interview without playing something from Porcelain. And so but we're going to go. We're going to go for them. So everybody, I just want to tell everybody, and correct me if I'm wrong, Miss Fordham, but you were, I won't say the date because Mama told me you never ask a woman her age. I know, but in August the 10th, you were brought into this beautiful world in a city called Portsmouth, England. Go ahead and pick it up from there, girl.
Well, it sounds very extravagant and spectacular when you say Portsmouth, England, but really it's a coastal town. I mean, of course, I have affection for it because it's my hometown. It's where the south coast of England is where I first started playing in folk clubs. I actually started in folk clubs when I was about 14, and I really thought I was a folk singer. And I wanted to be Joni Mitchell, and I'd been going to the local open mic night, as they called it back in the day, and people would get up and they would sing songs, normally by Joni, which were just, of course, incredible. And I remember hearing Case of You and thinking, wow, that's the most incredible song I've ever heard. And shortly thereafter, my parents started to get very concerned that I wasn't sort of moving in a college trajectory, and they got it into their heads that they should just sort of get me to get a proper job, because they didn't want me sort of sitting around writing songs all day, because this was sort of rather concerning to them.
Right.
And I ended up working at a radio station in Portsmouth called Radio Victory. And I was 16, and I had a full-time job there. And I ended up not only, singing all their jingles, but doing all the voiceovers, because my speaking voice was quite strong. So I actually had a spectacular run of teenage years singing in clubs on the south coast of England that then moved into more jazz settings, because the guy who hosted the jazz radio show at Radio Victory kept saying to me, "You're not a folk singer, you're a jazz singer." And of course, I've now come to realize, I was 16 then, that both. And that's one of the interesting things about my voice, is that it's taken me on this journey now that I just stopped trying to pigeonhole myself. My latest project, as you mentioned, is, a jazz record called The Language of Love. I've also done a Blue-Eyed Soul record, which Larry Klein produced, that India R.E. sang on. So I see myself as a singer-songwriter, but I'm very happy and fluent in being able to shift boxes. So, I've had a musical life that's taken me from Hailing Island to the Coach House. And it's funny how life works out and how the path leads you. Because, what a curious twist. And I remember so clearly meeting you and you joining me. And then now here we are talking on the radio 12 years later,
God is good, girl.
It's a magical path. It's a mundane path, and it's a magical path. That's the interesting thing about life, isn't it? You're pushing the same ice block up, and sometimes it just, the waterfall flows. And I've been lucky enough to experience both of those.
Absolutely. I look back, and when you talk about, your starting stage back in the early 80s, I was surprised the fact that you kind of coined the name Jules Fordham. A very, very hipster kind of a voice itself. What led you off of Jules to back to Julia? What was the transition there?
A lot of it's just my nickname. When I came to America, people started calling me Julesy. But in England, most of my friends call me Jules. So the very first single that I did, or when I was a backing singer, people used to call me Jules. So, the very first pop thing I did, I called myself that because that's how I saw myself. But I was a teenager. And so when I then came to sign a record deal and have my first song, Happy Ever After, which went on to be a big hit, and then moving into Porcelain, the record you mentioned earlier, Jules sounds a bit too lightweight. It does sound like, somebody's mate, whereas Julia has much more of a serious connotation. The funny thing was, ironically, my record company, I love the guys at my record label, we talked about what the name should be, and they came up with Jewel, Jewel, and I just had an intuition that wasn't a good idea, but I couldn't quite put my finger on why. And then, of course, sometimes you just have to go for your instinct, even though you can't explain why. And they believed me. I just said, I know that sounds great, and it seems like a really good idea, but I just know it isn't. And then, of course, how hilarious would it have been if we'd have had the two Jewels? So I'm glad I followed my gut on that one. And for my projects, I knew I was going to be an album artist by the time I signed with Circa, which is a wonderful little label that then merged with Virgin and then EMI. But I was just really grateful to just get off onto the right foot. And that's how, when I look back in retrospect, I was fully focused and, had that kind of machine behind me, and I was able to sort of launch.
And I look about, when you mentioned Happy Ever After, one of my favorite tunes, of course, and a lot of people don't realize, and if you don't, let's go back for a second here, that you're actually got a nice peak at 27 on Billboard. And overall, the album went platinum, and it hit at 118 over Billboard's Top 200, which is it's quite a feat, especially back then when we did something called Sell Records, and which we're going to talk more about that as we get in later on itself, about the music business or the lack thereof And and I want somebody in your stature. I want to get your opinion, as I've gotten opinions for many people. In fact, I spoke about you fondly a week ago Sunday when I was hanging out with one of my close friends. I'm going to name drop, but one of my old bosses and dear friend, Mr. Michael McDonald. And Michael, and I were talking, and I said to Michael, Michael, I'm going to tell you, because Mike and I have known each other since 1990, recorded all these years. But he had said, who's coming up on the show? And I said, I've got Julia Fordham. He says, more times than not, he goes, you know how many times that Julia and me have been compared as if Julia was a man or I was a woman, that we have that same tone in our voice. And I thought that was an ultimate compliment, man. And he said to me, hey, you can throw the word out there. Tell her I would like to be able to work with her. I said, wait a minute. You don't realize the fact that Julia did one of your tunes. I keep forgetting. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. You did a Michael McDonald cover.
Yeah, don't tell me he forgot that whole crazy thing. He is. I mean, okay. Here's my.
I'll tell you why he forgot that, because his whole shtick on stage being, I won't even get into I know how old Michael is. He's older than I am. I'm older than dirt. But Michael had said one thing. He has this little spiel on stage. He says, as he gets older, the band has to remind him words because he doesn't have a teleprompter in front of him. And so he's talking about the songs that he grew up and the songs that made him famous. And he goes, and the song that's most apropos at my age is the song that's entitled, I Keep Forgetting and God Knows I Do. So that was the whole kind of vibe there. We talked a little bit about it, but of course he had a meet and greet. People were pulling on him. But he said, definitely send her my best. I said, we'll do so, because he's back in California now. You are a California resident. He's up in Santa Barbara, and I will put you guys in contact with one another, if I may, offline.
Oh, my goodness. Go back to the bit where you said he wants to work with me. I mean, I'm freaking out right now. Look, I love the bit that he has already gifted me like you wouldn't believe. My Michael McDonald story is that when I was recording my very first album, the two guys that I was working with, Grant Mitchell and Bill Padley, both amazing musicians, amazing guys, they introduced me to Michael McDonald, and I had a song on my first album that went, behind closed doors, you're mine, I'm yours. And they said that reminded them of a Michael McDonald song that was, what's so right, what's so wrong, almost at the same time. Then they play me Michael McDonald, and then I sort of collapse on the floor and need resuscitating because I've never heard anything like it in my life. I'm just blown away by his voice, that song, and I feel this affinity and connection with him. And then, of course, I become, the Michael McDonald fan and, throw myself into all of his songs and long to be him and spend my life impersonating him, including on all the backing vocals on the first record. We would always be, what would Michael McDonald do? And we used to call it strapping on the grey beard. So we'd be like, for the strong and the weaker, be my lover's keeper. We'd always be pretending to be Michael. So fast forward many years to my China Blue record, and I was working with a great musician called John Gilliton, and I had a live version of I Keep Forgetting in the set, and John took it upon himself to assemble some first-class musicians and put a terrific recording of that song together. And I, of course, couldn't resist doing my Michael impersonations every 5 seconds and saying, when we get Michael McDonald in, who, of course, I've never met at this point, we'll get him to go, and I keep forgetting. Fast forward another year, we've completed the track, and a friend of mine called Simon Climey was working with Michael McDonald, and I sent him the track. I said, that's so funny, you're working with Michael. I'm a huge fan. I've done a version of I Keep Forgetting, and I sent it to Simon, and Simon played it to Michael McDonald in the morning in France in their fabulous studio as they were working on their amazing album of the time. It was one of their retrospective soul projects. And I think it was the Motown record. And Michael apparently stood up and said, I love her voice, and this is amazing. I want to sing on it. And he did do backing vocals on my version of his song. So I did, of course, ring him up and thank him. I mean, I was beside myself. I mean, Simon Climey rang me and said, do tell me you're sitting down because you're truly not going to believe what I'm about to tell you. And then he told me that Michael had blessed me in this way. But the thing I always say when I say the story, and I think it's really indicative of the true artist that Michael McDonald is that he did not say, how many records has she sold? Let me look her up. I need to call my manager and ask. He just stood up and said, I love that, and started singing.
That's not his vibe. He takes everybody for, he's like he said too. He goes, Jackie, regardless of who I think I am, he goes, I'm a fan of a lot of the people that I associate myself with. And he goes, and let people know right up front that it is, because you stop and think about it for a second. With all that situation of, you singing a Michael song, Michael singing background in it, with all my years that I've had with Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys, you can't sing a Beach Boy tune unless you have the Beach Boys sing in the background. And it's really kind of hard to pull it off singing a Michael McDonald tune without Michael lending his voice as he did with Steely Dan and so on. But I don't want to turn this into a Michael McDonald hour because Michael, Michael's Michael. I want to talk about this girl I got on the phone right now. I want to talk about Julia Fordham. And I just... I'm floored, and by all means, I'm going to say this as an absolute compliment. Like fine wine, girl, you have matured into a beautiful woman, and hats off,
Thank you.
And I've got one of my dearest friends, a girl I grew up with. She is even more of a fan of Julia Fordham than I am. Her name is Jonna Clavin, and Jonna, we had a big Easter whoop-de-doo here at the house over the weekend, and all weekend long, I kept hearing this song that she was just blown away by, and it's her favorite song. And in fact, I argued with her, and I said, that's not your favorite song. It's my favorite song. So we had this on loop. And the song I'm going to talk about, just real quick, if I may patronize you, young lady, is this song. And everybody, just give me your ear for a couple seconds here. Let me just kind of go up here. My little... Remember the song, Julia? A song called Manhattan Skyline with Miss Julia Fordham.
What chance did I stand? How could I resist your American arms and your French kiss? From New York to London, London to New York, with this broken heart so British.
I had to patronize you, girl. That is my favorite song of all time by Julia Fordham called Manhattan Skyline. And Julia, the thing that's blown me out of the water here right now is I'm talking to you, and I want to say a special thank you to Mr. Ken Scott, because if it wasn't for Ken, you and I would not be talking here. And I know Ken is listening in also too. So as we're trailing out of segment number 1, Julia, we'll be trailing into segment number 2 after a short break, and we're going to pick it up where we kind of left off. Going to get back to Julia and talk about the inspiration for the language of love, and we want to go ahead and educate people and let everybody know where Julia is going to be in concert. So with that said, Julia, don't go anywhere, my love. Sit back and enjoy a little bit of a break. Guys, this is Jackie Bertoni. You know you're tuned into Jackie's Groove, brought to you by Intertalk Radio Network, and I'm proud and privileged to sitting in my studio talking to the ever lovely and effervescent Miss Julia Fordham. So Julia, don't go anywhere. Guys, don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. We'll come back right after the short break. We'll pick up where we left off. Jackie Bertoni, Jackie's Groove. Stay tuned.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Make this your vinyl night. Unplugged. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on
Welcome to Jackie's Groove. Come journey with us through the rhythm of the music business with your host, Jackie Bertoni.
All right, who has the nerve to be singing a Stevie Wonder song entitled Sir Duke? Well, the one who has the nerve to do that is the one who just killed it right there. My in-studio guest, guys. Hey, it's Jackie Bertoni. Jackie's Groove, brought to you by Intertalk Radio, blah, blah, blah. Back, first and foremost, to this beautiful woman on the line right now in my studio, Miss Julia Fordham. Julia, tell me about the genesis of what made you go against that song?
Well, the fact is we had a lot of tracks to choose from. Firstly, I was working with my longtime collaborator, Grant Mitchell, who's really behind all of the things I Believe You Love on the Porcelain album. He did all the arrangements. He's an amazing pianist. He produced that record along with Hugh Padgham. And I've done a lot of work with Grant and a lot of work with Larry Klein. I came back to Grant for this particular project. We were asked by JVC, a Japanese label, to do a jazz record. And initially they had wanted us to do what's been done before so perfectly by Ella Fitzgerald right through to Diana Krall, which was to do standards. We asked if they would be open to doing something that had maybe a different twist. So what we came up was, the only criteria was that the songs be much loved or very, very popular or massive hits in Japan. And this opened up a window for us to really look at so many incredible songs that had been smash hits in Japan, and starting off with the opening track, which we did a swing version of Blondie's Call Me, which you played a snippet of. And then also we were just thrilled to see that Stevie Wonder, like he is everywhere in the world, was huge in Japan. And we thought what would complement this record? We had incredible players. I mean, we did this record in LA with the best Latin jazz cats. We literally did three songs live a day, 3 tracks live a day. And we just had the most wonderful time. And the most thrilling part of that whole experience doing that Stevie song is that we had this extraordinary trumpet player called Harry Kim. And Harry came in and we told him we were doing this, and he looked very sort of pensive or thoughtful or reflective. We couldn't quite put our finger on it, and we asked him if he felt comfortable playing on the track, because we couldn't quite read him. And he said, listen, he played on the original, basically. He'd been in Stevie Wonder's band. And we were worried that was, he looked so, his eyebrows were knotted. And it was, apparently it turned out it was just throwing him slightly because we changed the key. And he actually said that he loved the version, and he said that he was slightly concerned when he heard that we were going to do a cover of that. He was like, listen, I'm like Stevie's man. I've been on the road with him playing these parts, and if this isn't going to absolutely slam it, I'm going to have to tactfully leave. So he shared that he was absolutely thrilled that he loved all the players, and who, of course, many guys he'd worked with, and he loved our rendition of the Stevie classics. So we had this incredible moment. I mean, what an extraordinary tale and exchange to hear how he auditioned for that part. So incredible. We really enjoyed doing the.
I'm sorry, I'm jumping in here. Because I'm curious. I'm very curious right now. I mean, let's step back for a quick second, okay? I'm walking down the neighborhood in Portsmouth, and I'm hearing music coming out of the Fordham household. I knock on the door, and I walk in. What is Jackie Bertoni hearing coming out of the speakers at the Fordham household at that time when you starting your fledgling career?
This is funny because people ask me this, and the truth is not very much. My parents were really not that into music. They didn't play music. I remember it was like a really big... They finally got a record player. And a neighbor, this is honestly the funniest story, a neighbor had told my mum that she needed to go and get Neil Diamond's record. But somewhere between the house and getting to the record store, my mother forgot which Neil it was, and she came home with a Neil Young record.
Shocker.
I'm always sort of wondering the trajectory I might have gone on if the first record I had heard was Neil Diamond, but it was in fact the Neil Young record, and everyone was kind of, especially my parents, were like, music, you say. They like talk radio, they listened to Radio 2 a little bit, and when Radio 2 was sort of, right now it's really quite cutting edge in the UK, and amazing programming, but back in the day it was much more sort of family chatting with the occasional record, and I heard a couple of artists that went on to very much influence me. One was Karen, the Carpenters. I mean, I absolutely loved that, her low voice. I really connected because I was like, she can sing low like me. And another record they played all the time was Judy Zook, an amazing singer-songwriter from England, and she had this song called For You. Now, it was really only those two songs before I got to the local folk club when I was 14 and then introduced to Joni Mitchell. And then I got to the radio station where I'm surrounded by DJs who were saying, while you're singing the folk club, you need to listen to Ricky Lee Jones. I think you would love Joan Armour Trading. I think you would. So they started to inform me and help shape my path. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the jazz radio host said to me, I think you should audition for the National Youth Jazz Orchestra. And he's the person who really guided me onto a path of, exploring the jazz greats. So then when I get to London and I'm working as a backing singer, I then hear someone say, have you ever heard of Chaka Khan? I was 21 years old and never heard of Chaka Khan. And then, of course, I was playing a Rufus track, and I was like, it's probably best if you call an ambulance now because I can't believe what I've just heard. So, like some people, they go, yes, my parents were playing this, and they're really sort of sequin-drenched, incredible musical harmonies and parts and background references that really form who they are. My journey continues. I'm still discovering things and going, wow, like Americana. I was really probably 30 before I heard Bonnie Raitt, and I was like, oh, that's who I wanted to be my whole life. I just never knew it because no one ever played it to me, and I just happened to stumble on her voice and sound on the radio, So I think if you're born in America or wherever you are born or whatever your parents do play or don't play informs you. So I think one of the things that is to do with the unique sound that I had, especially with the first record where I was sort of trying to find who I was, that comes from actually not having that many musical references or being in a folk club but actually loving Blondie, being in a folk club and loving the way that Annie Lennox looked. And I was trying to find my way. And, I also love the Pretenders, but knowing intuitively, I'm not a rocker. I don't rock, and I'm trying to rock in a different way. I'm trying to speak in a different way. So,
I think that's brilliant. Let me ask you a question, young lady. And I did say young lady, so Mama taught me how to patronize better than anybody. And but I wanted to ask you this question: if I was to hijack your music library out of your streaming on your iPhone or whatever you're hearing, what am I going to be hearing in rotation on Julia Fordham's list?
I'm here to the honest answer to that is that it would be whatever the kids are listening to in the carpool. And right now, that's the Bruno Mars song on a hit, on a loop. Big hit. They absolutely love it. They like singing "Sex by the Fire" at night and then laughing as if the old mother driving won't know what that is. So that's the real truth. But what I'm actually listening to right now is that I'm really enjoying just browsing, and I love the singer-songwriter station on iTunes and Apple, and that's what I listen to. And when I first started listening to it, I started making notes, like, I'm going to look that artist up. I love that. But I actually realized I love absolutely every song and every singer, and so there's just no point, because I just have hundreds of notes of people I'm never going to get around to looking up. But I really like singers. I really like voices, and I really like songs. I mean, like today, I dropped the kids off. They're not all mine. You'll be glad to know that's I have a 11-year-old, and they're a set of twins. And then the minute the pop music ends, I will put on, to this day, I will play Joni Mitchell's Hejira, followed by Joni Mitchell's Chinese Cafe. I just, because I think it's perfection, and if I'm doing anything to do with music, I think it's always to kind of influence and surround yourself by the greats, and I believe Joni Mitchell to be one of the living greats. So,
Julie, how old are your babies right now?
I have an 11-year-old girl who will almost be 12. And, and she's, seems like she's 28. I don't know. They seem so advanced these days, Jackie.
Of course. Let me ask you a question. With that said, do they understand what Mama does?
No, they don't. They have no reference. I mean, sometimes lovely other mothers will say to me, "Oh, Marley must be so proud of and I'm like, no, she has no reference. I think also because I don't lead with that with her. She has it's sort of on her periphery. I mean, I try and sort of present myself as her mother, and I don't ever play. I'm an artist. Don't you know who I am? I mean,
exactly.
Never. But I'm hoping one day that she might discover me, online, or look me up and maybe have a sort of reflective wow moment. But no, they have no idea. They make jokes sometimes that I sound, really good when I'm singing along to Bruno Mars, but no, I don't think she really does have a feel or sense for what I do or who I am.
Are you okay with that?
I'm 100% okay with that. I don't need to be fed or humored in that way. I know a lot of sort of have that craving or the hole that needs constantly filling. Or I do think that I was a mother late in life. I mean, I really was, and I had Marley when I was nearly 43. So I'd read so many books about parenting, and it's all about, meeting their needs and, in a way, putting them first. She sees me being incredibly disciplined, and she sees me working. She sees me doing my scales. She sees the gigs coming up, and she sees me, hey, listen, kid, I can't do that. You can have 1 hour of television because I'm going to do 1 hour of practicing. And she does see me knuckle down and complete projects and finish songs, and musicians come by occasionally, and she'll sort of drop in and look and wonder what's happening. But she has to get on board. I mean, I'm going to be going over to London in the summer for some shows in July, and
we're going to talk about that also. Julie, let me jump in here real quick too. And with that said, I have to ask you a question too. I mean, I think it's a pressing question. Actually, my wife came up with this question. But stop and think for a second, my love. If Julia Fordham wasn't playing music, wasn't singing, wasn't involved in the industry at all, what would Julia Fordham be doing? Well, it depends where I was living in the world and what my financial circumstances were. But I'm loving the wife's question. Hello, Lady Jackie. Honestly, I would still be being Marley's mum. I have to compartmentalize a little bit. But what I would be doing is I would probably have a very simple life. I'm currently training to be a Reiki master. I have done levels 1, 2, and 3, wonderful. And I'm doing along and, throwing myself in and doing the homework for being an actual Reiki master. Now, I don't know why I feel compelled and drawn to it, but I do. I think if I didn't have my singing voice, I mean, the truth is, the honest answer to that question is it becomes confusing, especially as it is, as we all know, quite difficult to earn a living being a singer and a songwriter, especially in the current climate. So what happens to me is how do I have this voice? I know that my voice is a gift, and I know that my songwriting is my second gift. So these are my gifts that I'm meant to share with the world. To share them
requires a Herculean effort and an extraordinary focus. It doesn't just happen without an application. It's like, you can have a leaning towards being a good athlete, but unless you are in the gym or running or doing the right stretching, it's not going to happen. And you're a professional percussionist. Unless your chops, you're plugged in, you are not to be able to move in the world as the musician you're meant to be. So I would I'm honestly just trying to keep my eye on the prize of motherhood, of what I'm enjoying at the moment, but at the same time, still being the musician, singer, and songwriter that I am. And then when my kid goes to college, I want to be a troubadour. I want to be 80 years old and still standing with my guitar and singing my song. I want to be like the Rolling Stones. I want to still be doing it. I'm not going to, I'm going to give it up now. I'm going to go out as I came in, being the singer-songwriter that I am. And at the same time, perhaps my Reiki will lead me to something. I would, happily go and sit in the mountain and let go of everything. That's something that appeals to me in like in a Buddhist way, like truly having a simple life, giving away every last teapot.
Dig it.
And just being a spirit.
My love, I'm sorry. I got a little delay here. I'm sorry. It's popping in and out here. Let me ask you this question, Ms. Reiki. I have to ask you this question because I'm curious, because I know I lived it, as most of the notables that I've had on or have. I want you to think for a real quick second in this last minute and 59 seconds of this segment. Where were you? What were you thinking? What song was it when you heard yourself on the radio the very first time?
Oh, no, I love that question. I've only been asked it once before. I was working on my first press day. I was signed, as I mentioned earlier, to this lovely record label, lovely guys, Circa, and I had my first experience of being in a fancy car. So I was already feeling a little bit pink and flustered. And I was like, this is really crazy. I'm being driven somewhere. And my song, my single at the time, it was called The Comfort of Strangers, a song from the first album, came on Radio 1 in the United Kingdom and England, in London. And the guy in the car next to me starts tapping his fingers in time on the steering wheel. And I went bright red, and I slipped down the seat, and I kind of like hid behind the back. I don't know why it was like, I was overwhelmed. I was so exhilarated and excited. I was bouncing around on my seat. I was all pink. And then at the end of the song, Simon Bates, the radio presenter, went, what a wonderful voice. It sounds like silver. I love it. It's velvet. And he was describing my voice. And the bit about the story that's the funniest thing, prior to that, I used to be a temporary secretary, and I once answered the phone at one of my jobs to Simon Bates, and I answered the phone and went, "Hello, Madam Biggin Schnuggen," or whatever I was working for. It was a lawyer firm that they were handling the Live A TV show, and Simon Bates.
Julia, I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to jump in and interrupt you. I'm sorry, that light's flashing. We're going to go out of segment number 2. I'm writing this down because I want to pick this back up itself. I do hate this. But you know what, it is what it is. So with that said, guys, don't go anywhere. Jackie Bertoni, Jackie's Groove with Julia Fordham, brought to you by Intertalk Radio Network. Julia, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a short break. I'm telling you, girl, we need another hour or 2. So guys, don't go anywhere. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element. Affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Welcome to Jackie's Groove. Come journey with us through the rhythm of the music business with your host, Jackie Bertoni.
And every of my lovely people listening to Jackie's Groove, Jackie Bertoni, that song is from my in-studio guest, actually originally from the Beatles and Eleanor Rigby, but we're talking to Miss Julia Fordham. Julia, give me 1 second here. I got to apologize to my sponsors. So you guys, here it is. I want to say hello to all my sponsors out there, and that would be Pitbull Audio. That would be my new sponsor, Blue Microphones, SIR, Studio Instrument Rentals, Drum Workshop, and LP Music and Vader Percussion. I usually give out the URLs. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to waste my time because I'm talking to Julia Fordham. Julia.
Yeah. Listen,
girl, when we went on the last break, I rudely interrupted you with regards to your tenure of a temporary secretary. And you picked up the phone, and we were talking about the time that you were hearing yourself on the radio for the first time. Go ahead and finish up with that little bit of a story because the audience wants to hear about it.
The journey was for me to have Simon Bates being the first person to play my song on national radio in England and to be so wonderfully kind about my singing voice that when he called and I answered as a receptionist, I heard him say to someone, "This girl has got the most amazing voice, her talking voice." So he made a comment about my talking voice, but he had his hand over the phone, so he thought that he didn't know that I'd heard him. And I was like, "I will now put you through to extension 44. So for me, it was, that's sort of like a really bizarre bit of synchronicity to have. I felt so when Simon Bates said that about my talking voice, I wanted to go, "You should hear my singing voice." But no, I'm just a secretary today. Let me patch you through to whoever it is you need to talk to. So there's something really kind of validating and completing about my Simon Bates.
Of course. And Julie, let me ask you this question because I'm not an overly political person at all, at least not in this barometer. But we talk to a lot of the notables. I talk to every one of the notables. Everybody's got a different opinion. We're in a different marketplace here in America with regards to something that we miss called a record store and vinyl and Tuesday release at Tower Records and Virgin Records and so on and so forth. The kids nowadays, you guys are all missing out on this. Digital downloads is what's happening right now, but there's something about opening up a CD or opening up a thing called an album, a 33 1/3, and you read what is called liner notes. And me as a musician, Julia as a musician, gets a kick out of listening to the music and also reading the liner notes. And hopefully that'll come around again. But with that said, let's talk about today, and let me ask Julia Fordham. Julia, optimistic or pessimistic about the music business or the lack thereof? Share with us, please.
I would say I'm just realistic. I think time waits for no man, and all industries change. I remember being in Britain and my first record coming out, and the coal industry was falling apart, and people were being heartbroken, and they were closing down the mines, and villages were going to crumble, and there was this palpable tension in the country. And I think that what happens and is evident in every walk of life is that you really can count on two things. One is change, and the other is death. And I think that I try to look at it. I mean, and I have been very severely impacted by this because I'm someone I'm not Adele, but I also have a devoted fan base. But that devoted fan base, to find me is quite difficult. And that moment has gone. It will never come back. We can't work out how to get it back. And progress or not, because, I've tried to with the kids that I hang out with. I try to say to them, you like that song? Let's look up that singer. They don't care. They love instantaneous. See, our youth, and this is not a criticism of them, they may be right. Our moment, we had this glorious, savoring moment, and where we would just love the artwork and peel open that record, whether it was the vinyl or the CD and the packaging, and everything is an instantaneous, snappy, chatty, Instagrammy moment, and they are ablaze in a way that we have no reference for. So when I say, "Oh, you guys love that singer-songwriter," I like that song by Julia Michaels. I like that one. Let's look her up. They don't want to see the video. They don't want to know which. I wonder if she's in England or if she's American, because I can't really tell her voice. What do you think? They don't care, but it doesn't mean they don't love that song. I can't say to them, "Hey, where do you think Bruno Mars is from? I know you will love that song." They don't care where he's from. They don't want to look it up. They don't want to see the picture. They don't want to read along. Sometimes they will. That lyric, we want to sing along, but it's not as savoring in the way that we had. It's a Polaroid snapshot moment, and that's their vibrancy and their currency, and they're doing incredibly creative things on their music clips. And so I just accept it because I'm seeing it firsthand. I can't turn back the hands of time. My current way of viewing the world is, I'm so grateful that I had a fan base. I'm so grateful I managed to get a record deal when people still loved CDs and quality stuff that I believe that I'm doing. How I turn that into a living now, I have no idea. If I could tour every night, if I could gig all the time, I would. But there isn't really that much of a demand to be playing all of the time. There is no solution. It is what it is now, and if you can be one of the handful of artists that are doing well streaming, what a beautiful thing. I applaud you. That's great. I think what I will be looking at is I keep waiting and hoping that some preposterously wealthy fan will go, "Seriously, you might have to sell your house? Make another record. Go enjoy. Here's that's what Larry Klein says. It will probably be the old way of the lord of the manor or the lady of the manor supporting the arts rather than trying to raise money from Kickstarter or forging your own. Suddenly you have to be a business person. I think it will just probably be someone will gift you that I love what you did or what you do. Go ahead and do that. I hope so, Jackie, because I can't think of anything else.
Okay, well, let me ask you this question. I have another question for you, and I'm going to be an honest question. I really want an honest answer from you. Are you satisfied with the success and the career of Julia Fordham?
Well, it depends what day you catch me on. I oscillate pretty evenly between I'm so grateful that I had a moment there where I was able to build a foundation that I continue to be able to springboard off from. You've been so kind and generous to me, sharing these lovely stories about people who love my songs and my voice, and it makes me feel seen and heard, and as if I hit my mark in some way. Do I wish I'd been Sade, who I absolutely love, her voice and her songs? Of course, yes. Do I wish that I had sold, gazillions of records and was a millionaire and wasn't trying to work out how to keep going and how to keep creating the space to be the best artist I can be, which being an artist yourself, it takes so much attention and focus and discipline and devotion. That's my honest answer. I'm not by nature competitive, and I'm also not by nature pessimistic or glass half empty. I'm abundant in my thinking, but I've been hit really hard. I have felt low. I have felt like, what is God telling me? How is Spirit calling me? Why do I have this voice? Why do I write? Why is these beautiful songs still coming to me? I'm also not a what is the point person, but it almost is a little bit what is the point, because truly nobody buys albums. They really don't. And if you don't have the massive machine to put your work, I don't see it as a product, your work out there to be streamed and to perhaps fall into sync with something. It's not a vanity project because it's such a calling, but it does make you wonder, especially if you have a kid. And if I didn't have a kid, I would be, looking at things very differently. But, that's my honest answer. And
I thank you. And the listeners are thanking you, and I've got to tell you something. I'm laughing right now because I just got messages now from the CEO of our network. And I'm going to embarrass him right now, Julia, because he is a massive Julia Fordham fan. And if I don't give him the opportunity to say hi to you, I may lose my job. So with that said, Florentino, are you on? Would you please say hi to Miss Fordham? And Miss Fordham, say hi to Florentino Buenaventura.
Hi, Julia. How you doing?
I'm very well, Florentino. How are you? I like that name.
Thank you very much. I'm the third one, so I'm not even original with it, but I definitely use it. And Jackie gets to keep his job now. That's a good thing.
Bravo.
But yeah, he's right. So that this has been a good journey for you. There was a young man who was going through a breakup relationship, and a little song called "Invisible War" really touched him, and it kind of helped him through that. So that's what Jackie's talking about, and I told him that story. And your music definitely, when you Happily Ever After, and I always think about you and Jonathan Butler, and kind of that time when people in our South Africa were having challenges, and you've been an amazing artist, and you continue to be an amazing artist. The new album is coming out. Rick Scott's a good friend of ours, and when I seen that notice come along, I said, Jackie, check it out, man. Hey, Julia Fordham's got a new thing coming out. We got to get her on the show. He goes, just do it. And so that's how this all came about. And how can people find out about that this new album of amazing tracks coming out?
This is exactly the point that I'm sort of sharing with Jackie. I think it's unless you have that, chunk of change that's giving you the best PR in the world, and clearly my man is doing a great job because he's got me to you guys. I don't know how you do it. I think you have to just assume that people will accidentally stumble upon it and remember your name and go, I loved Happy Ever After and Porcelain, I wonder what she's up to, and then just type in juliafordham.com and maybe find me. I mean, the other way is to just do some gigs, which I'm going to be playing the Catalina Jazz Club in Hollywood on October the 18th. I'm going to go to New York. I'm playing Joe's Pub on October the 27th, the 28th. I'm going to be in London. I'm playing the fabulous Strand Live Pizza Express place. They do really support jazz records and artists. I'm going to be there on the 28th and 29th of July. So I'm doing these little gigs. I'm talking to you guys, and I'm personally buoyed by your kind words and support, because it's because of those early songs that I'm able now to talk about my current Language of Love jazz project, which, again, it was a wonderful delight and thrill to be asked by JVC to record it and to work with these first-class players here in LA. And, I really feel good about that record. I really felt like, I had to focus. I had to sing really, really well. We did every song live 3 times and chose the best one. And here we have this, bristling, fizzing record that, I think people would love if they could only find a way to stumble upon it.
Well,
so I'm grateful for your support.
And we're here to help with that, girl, because, and I just want to jump in here real quick on these last, I can't believe it, Julia. I would beg you for another hour right now, but I don't know how the station would look at that. I don't know how Rick would look at that, and I don't know what the hell you got going on. But I just do want to tell everybody else on the 2007 shows in July, you've got the 21st at Fairkite's Art Center in Horn. Church?
I mean, yeah, 100. It's the craziest thing. I'm like, even I had to Google that one, and I come from England. I'm where the heck is Horn? It's sort of England.
Yeah, then you have the 26th at the Trades Club in Hebden Bridge, and then the 28th and the 29th.
North of England.
Right.
Yes.
And the Strand at the Pizza Express, and that's on the 28th and 29th. And then let's jump over here to America. October 18th, as she mentioned, the Catalina Jazz Bar and Grill in Los Angeles. On the 27th and 28th at Joe's Pub in New York City. And you guys go to juliafordham.com and go to her tour, and she'll tell you that. And most importantly, guys, go to juliafordham.com and get your credit card out and buy the shit out of everything she's got on this, man. I mean, she's got a child, and and we got to get her up to that global. We got to put her back on the map where she belongs, because I'm sorry, guys, but the shit that's on the radio right now is exactly that. It's shit. And and so the bottom line is, we've got to bring back everything itself. Julia, my love, there's just so many things that I want to talk about, and there's just no time. There's no time, girl.
I'd love to come back. Thank you.
And it's like I'm sitting here right now going, because I've kind of gone through my whole little thing here, and it's like, even if I had another hour right now, I'd have to backtrack, so it's not going to make sense. So what we'd love to do is extend the olive branch and have you come back so we can take another hour and and talk more about it and everything that encompasses you. I want to talk about the musicians that we have friends in common who played on the Language of Love, and the musicians back then. I mean, people want to know about your tenure with Paul Reiser. How weird is that? And an acoustic thing that you guys did, and then your life with with Mary Wilson, and your life with Kim Wilde and Judith Owens. I mean, there's just so much to talk about, girl, and we just don't have any time to do it. And and what I want you to do right now too is, because we thank everybody that puts money in our pockets. Does Julia want to give a shout out, for the lack of a teenage word, to any of the people that give you the rig that makes your voice even more beautiful than it is? Are you sponsored by microphone companies, et cetera, et cetera? Do you want to say hi to them?
I love that. No, but you think I should be, right? No, I use a Shure microphone. But I just went and bought one, is how I roll in the world. I'm very grateful to have my long-term manager, Laurie Levy, in America, and to have an agent in England called Lordly Noble. And between the two of them, they help to keep me staying on the map. I love my live bands in both countries, but no, I'm not sponsored by anyone. I clearly need to get on that, don't I, Jackie? I think, but I tell you what,
let us help with that. Let us help with that, girl, because there's a reason why we're very hooked up heavily with a big company called Pitbull Audio, and we bring everybody in through Stanley Clark and Bunny Burnell, and we've got Richie Kotzen coming up next week. And you shouldn't be spending money. Money should be spent on you with relation to using your voice. So we'll talk about that offline with Florentino and stuff. He's the magic and the magician when it comes to that. So you guys, I hate to say this, man, I got 53 seconds on this damn clock. Julia, on bended knee, I thank you. You made my day. This is Monday, and my week looks promising ahead of that. So, with that said, girl, you're welcome to the doors of Intertalk Radio and Jackie's Groove are wide open. I'm going to call Mr. McDonald when I get off the phone, let him know that you're going to be in town, and then I'm going to put the two of you together. So, with that said, I want to thank you, Florentino, and the whole staff at Intertalk Radio. Thank you immensely for blessing our show, and everybody, please go and patronize this amazing singer called Julia Fordham, and pick up her new release called The Language of Love, and it's money well spent. So with that said, Julia, I love you, girl. Peace through music. This is Jackie Bertoni, Jackie's Groove, brought to you by Intertalk Radio Network, and the lovely and talented Miss Julia Fordham. Godspeed, girl. God bless. God best of health, and thank you for gracing our show. Cheers.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time, or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one song mix offer.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.